So, my aunt, she tried to ruin my entire life. It started with my husband, who she was so flirty with. She would go out of her way just to touch his shoulders as he walked by. Well, then I figured out a little secret of hers, how she was a dirty cheater, and I already have the evidence. So, I was about to expose her when she beat me to it, and she did something I never thought was possible. I've been lurking here for some time and recently started considering posting my story here. I was worried the star of the show would recognize herself and stir up more drama, but I really need an outlet. Growing up, my Aunt Karen, 46 female, and yes, that's a fake, but fitting name, and I were never really close, but she had always been a part of our family gatherings and special events. She was the kind of person who seemed to always be into someone else's business when she shouldn't be, constantly gossiping and stirring up drama. My parents always advised me to stay out of her antics, but I didn't really take her words to heart until I married my husband Mike. Mike and I have been together for 6 years so far, and we got married a year ago. He's a wonderful, supportive, and caring partner, everything I could ever ask for. We've been nothing but happy until my aunt butted in. Aunt Karen started showing up more frequently after we got back from our honeymoon and settled as a married couple. And that's when things really began to change for the worst. At first, her visit seemed innocent enough. She would pop in to check on us, and wasn't really unusual for her to bring homemade food and small gifts. But as time went on, her behavior towards Mike became increasingly flirtatious. She would find reasons to touch him, giggled at everything he said, and even made suggestive comments that made Mike and me uncomfortable. Well, to be honest with you, she would say things like how she would have snatched him from me if she had been in our age range. Ew. We both tried to brush it off and just avoid being alone with her, but her behavior only went from bad to worse with time. One day, I got home from work early only to find Aunt Karen in our home, wearing a very revealing outfit and applying her lipstick seductively in front of Mike. My poor husband looked mortified and didn't know what to do. I was furious, but I managed to keep my cool and politely ask her to leave our house. She acted like I was rude, and she had no idea why I was upset, but she finally let in a huff. After that, things escalated quickly. Aunt Karen began spreading rumors within our family that Mike was cheating on me, and that he was unhappy in our marriage, and that I was a controlling and jealous wife. She even managed to turn some of my relatives against me, making me feel ostracized during family gatherings. It was incredibly hurtful and humiliating, especially since I knew the rumors were baseless. Unfortunately, I had no proof, and Aunt Karen was very convincing. I confided in my best friend about the situation, and she suggested that I bite back by digging up some dirt on Aunt Karen to protect myself and my marriage. At first, I was hesitant as I didn't want to stoop to her level. However, as you can probably guess, Aunt Karen's pettiness and love for drama knew no limits, so I eventually had to do something. I began discreetly asking around about Aunt Karen's personal life, and quickly discovered that she had been having an affair with a married man for the past 2 years. Armed with this new information, I felt both enraged because of her holier-than-thou facade at family gatherings and empowered because I finally had an effective weapon against her. I was tired of Aunt Karen's manipulative behavior, and I knew I had to take action. During our next family gathering, which Aunt Karen was attending, I gathered everybody in the living room and dropped the bomb I revealed Aunt Karen's affair, and told everyone how she had been attempting to sabotage my marriage with her lies and seduction attempts. The room fell silent and everyone's eyes were on Aunt Karen, who was visibly shaking. It was obvious that Aunt Karen was cornered, absolutely, and she buried her face into her hands and started sobbing and justifying her actions with the simple fact that she was still single at age 46 and felt lonely and unwanted. She was trying to turn the tables on me. It partly worked. Some of the family members who initially believed her called me a monster for publicly humiliating her like that. They say I could have kept it to myself when I tried to defend myself by reminding them that she had started it. They told me that my behavior was absolutely childish. I just left the gathering speechless. It took Mike at least an hour to console me after we got home. I'm tired of Aunt Karen trying to ruin my life at all costs, just because she didn't get what she wanted. I genuinely don't think I'm the one to fault here, not even for exposing Aunt Karen, but I'll still ask. Am I the a-hole for exposing my aunt's affair after she tried to seduce my husband and sabotage our relationship? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having a great day. So today's story is a bit of a wild one with Aunt Karen, huh? Well, there's multiple updates to hop into. Update number 3, you might want to strap your seats back and grab your favorite beverage for. If you guys are new to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button for daily updates. And let's go ahead and see what's happening in update number 1. I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming support I've received after my original post. I come with news. As you know, Aunt Karen had tried to sabotage my relationship with my husband, Mike. And I bit back by revealing her real affair with another married man. She tried to turn the tables on me and simply play the victim. And now there's a small part of the family turning against me. Well, the story has got a bit further. The reason why I'm posting this after so long is that initially, things did not get any worse for a while. Sure, we weren't talking to Aunt Karen and some of the family members on her side anymore, but there wasn't any drama for some time. Just the usual huffs and puffs and glares whenever we met those people during family gatherings, which everyone else tried their best to make less awkward. With time, things progressively calmed down and did get a bit less awkward. Aunt Karen ended up asking me for a private talk during a family gathering and apologized to me for the pain that she caused. I didn't want to forgive her, but I loved my peace and was worried that the problem would further escalate if I did not accept her apology. Despite her words, I wasn't sure whether she'd actually changed and would not try to stir up more drama if I told her to get lost. So I accepted her apology and she looked happy. She told me she was looking forward to rekindling our relationship as aunt and niece. I was uncomfortable, to say the least, but I just tried to enjoy the rest of the gathering and went home. I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong with her. Even though I tried my best to stay polite and nice to her without being friendly, she suddenly turned into the most, quote, loving aunt in the world. Again, she would show up with gifts and food, but without trying to hit on Mike this time. She was every bit the nice, sweet, supportive model aunt. I really wanted to believe that she genuinely changed for the better, but I still had that bad feeling deep down inside. I confided in my best friend about it again, and this time, she suggested that I plant some hidden cameras around my house just to see if Aunt Karen would attempt anything shady again. I wasn't sure whether this was a good idea or not. If she did attempt anything, Mike would tell me anyways. My friend said that it wasn't about me believing Mike or not, it was about collecting solid proof and evidence against Aunt Karen if she really had a hidden motive for her absolute kindness. She was making a fair point, to be honest. I wanted to take some time to internally debate the idea. However, seeing Aunt Karen's visits were getting increasingly more frequent, and my gut feeling of just badness was getting increasingly stronger, I ended up following my best friend's advice. I planted so many hidden cameras around the house, and to add my own touch to the plan, started working overtime just to give Aunt Karen all the opportunities to find Mike alone during her visits. And what do you know? Sure enough, I get home late one day and Mike uncomfortably tells me that Aunt Karen visited and made another move on him. So I checked the camera recording, and yep, it's just as he said it. They clearly show Aunt Karen putting her arms around Mike's neck and pressing her body against his. Well, it gets worse. She visibly leans in for a kiss. Again! Ew. He pushed her away and said something, but she tried to approach him again. He opened the door for her and gestured for her to get out. She stomped her feet like a toddler before getting out in a huff, much like she did the first time. I had struck gold with it. I could confront Aunt Karen with her behavior. And you know what? Without her playing the victim and painting me as the villain again, because I have proof. A few days later, during Aunt Karen's visit, I asked her if we could discuss something. I said that Mike told me she's made unwanted advances on him again, and that I would not be tolerating that kind of behavior from her this time. Well, she goes livid and stuttered a few times before accusing Mike of lying and being the one who, made unwanted advances on her. So, I turned the TV on and played the recording of her harassing Mike just to show her the proof that I had. She was cornered, but she had no way out this time. Aunt Karen went even more livid at this point. Yeah, she was silent for some time before she dropped to her knees and started begging me to delete the recording, promising to never bother me and Mike again. Well, I refused. I couldn't afford to give her another opportunity to ruin my life. She kept begging until it was finally clear to tell her that I would not delete the recording. She then got up and pointed an accusing finger at me, saying that she would ruin my life surely before I tried to ruin hers again. Talk about a lack of self-awareness, geez. She then storms out of the house, slamming the door so shut loudly on her way out that it nearly knocked a portrait of Mike and me down. I ran fast enough to prevent any damage to the portrait to happen, though. I was annoyed and mildly worried about Aunt Karen's reaction and what she might do next. I say mildly because I had solid evidence of her wrongdoings, which I hoped would be enough to discourage her from trying anything shady. Surprisingly, everything was mostly calm for a good amount of time, aside from Aunt Karen's passive aggressiveness during the family gatherings. Yes, we gather often. It was clear that she was afraid of messing up and triggering me enough for me to reveal the footage. She did not show up at my house again, or even acknowledge Mike's presence during those gatherings. I was just hoping that our lives would finally be peaceful and drama-free again. It wasn't until another of my friends sent me a series of screenshots of social media posts with my husband's picture in them that things started to turn sour again. See, it was from a private group about cheaters that my friend happened to be a part of. She's single, but hey, I guess she loves the drama. I don't know. Although she never causes any drama herself. The post author had a name that did not ring a bell, but it was clear from the contents of the post that it was Aunt Karen who undoubtedly wrote it. The author of the post claimed that the man in the picture, Mike, tried to cheat on his wife, aka me, although the post did not feature my picture with the author. She said that he had been making advances on her since we got married and he tried to forcibly kiss her when she visits our home, while I was working overtime to support my, quote, cheating and ungrateful husband. I was surprised that Aunt Karen would speak so kindly of me, even though it was only to support her agenda. At the moment of time, I'm conflicted about what exactly to do. A part of me wants to directly confront her, while another prefers to devise a plan that won't allow her to weasel her way out of the issue this time. There's also the footage. Should I just reveal it? I still haven't talked to Mike about the post. I definitely will. I don't know. I'm worried about it hurting and worrying him. If anyone we know and who doesn't know Aunt Karen sees it, they'll definitely get the wrong idea and just start hating on Mike. She's trying to ruin his reputation. Whether it gets to revenge on him for refusing her advances or to protect her own reputation now that we have solid proof. I have no idea. My mind's caught in a whirlwind of absolute worries. I guess I'll just try to bring it up to Mike without shocking him too much for now. I'll update you guys if there's any news in the upcoming future. Update number 2. Hey, I just want to thank everyone who shows me kindness and supports in the comments. Once again, I come with news. I talked to Mike about the post, and just as I thought, it shocked and saddened me. He could not understand why Aunt Karen would go out of her way to destroy our relationship when we literally never wronged her. Sure, I did expose her affair, but she still started this whole drama first for literally no reason. We talked it out and decided to confront her about it all together. It made sense since the post featured his pictures. We tried inviting Aunt Karen to our house for lunch. However, she just said she probably sensed that there was a sort of a trap and immediately declined the invitation. She didn't even explain why, just said no thanks and simply hung up the phone. Since that did not work, we decided to be frank with her and confront her through text messages. I told her that we saw her social media post with Mike's pictures and her false accusations in it. At first, she denied that it was her and told me that it was just more proof of my husband, quote, playing around with another woman. I was fuming, but I really had no solid proof that it was her. Still, I decided to try to do something. I told her that Mike and I were going to file a complaint against the author of the post simply for defamation of character. Well, that seemed to work a little bit. I ended my text with, if it's not you, good. If it is, I'll see you in court. Somehow, according to my friend, the post just miraculously disappeared a few hours later. Even the author's account was nowhere to be found when I looked it up. She was way more predictable than I thought. I'm not sure whether this will be my last we hear for her. Part of me wants to get actual revenge against her. I wish I could humiliate her the way she did me and Mike. But I don't want to stoop to her level and play her sick games. I want a simple, peaceful life with my husband. I can tell this is taking its toll on him, and I feel bad about it because he's the victim of a member of my family. He's never blamed me for it, and it makes sense since it's not my fault. But I feel guilty nonetheless. I wish I could do something to protect him against her. Update number 3. No, that was not the last we heard of Aunt Karen. Once again, as it seems to be usual before she strikes again, Mike and I had a long, cozy, and drama-free period of peace in our lives, and I mean it. I ended up thinking that maybe, just maybe, Aunt Karen had finally given up ruining our lives for no reason. I mean, why us, of all people she spreads rumors about in her sad life? Was it because we were the only ones that stood up to her so far? Well, either way, she struck again. She tried to be the one filing a complaint against us for defamation after I told everyone in our family that she was having an affair with a married man. We were shocked when we got served a copy of the complaint. Mike looked like he was trying his hardest not to punch a hole in the wall. She had some nerve. I could sue her back with the footage I had of her harassing Mike, but I first needed to get myself out of a lawsuit. I knew that the only proof I had of the affair were the words of the people who tipped me off and would most likely not even want to testify about it. So, whether I tried to deny the accusations in the complaint or let it unfold, things were not in my favor at the moment. I knew Aunt Karen probably had already told the one she knew about the lawsuit, and maybe even tried to pressure them into being on her side. It wouldn't have been hard, given what she's done to us when we didn't bend over backwards for her. Still, I was hoping that someone either had not heard about it or was willing to go against her. I doubted that she could be the case, although, somehow, you could say, a miracle happened. Remember that man of her affair that was married? Well, his wife, a certain Sally, found out that he was cheating on her with Aunt Karen, apparently. One of the people who told me about Aunt Karen's relationship with Sally's husband is not only one of my relative's friends, but also a relative of Sally. Sally managed to get my contact information from the same relative and she contacted me. Well, she said she wanted Aunt Karen's contact info so she could ruin her life the same way Aunt Karen ruined Sally's. I knew it. It was my chance to get us both revenge and absolute justice that we deserved. I tried to explain my situation to her, but it was apparently so confusing that she asked me if we could just meet up. I was surprised that she was so eager to get her revenge that she was willing to meet with a perfect stranger after just a few minutes on the phone. I agreed to meet up. We met this morning in a cafe near her place and I exposed my situation to her. She looked mildly shocked, but told me that she didn't expect less from a woman who had the guts to, quote, fool around with a married father. Apparently, Sally had a daughter with her cheating husband. Cheaters really have no shame or morals. Sally showed me some screenshots of messages she found on her husband's phone. Conversations between him and Aunt Karen. You might think the mushy or risque stuff was the most disgusting, but oh no. Those are two openly mocked, stupid, ugly, fat Sally for staying with him. Her husband wanted a divorce, but he could not, quote, afford it, as it would make him lose money he could use to spoil Aunt Karen. Well, at this point, I'm now wondering if Aunt Karen doesn't see herself as some cute, attractive sugar baby. As I already said before, ew. I'm still wondering how Sally maintained her icy stare while showing me the screenshots. Those were the eyes of a woman who was too angry to feel anything else. She offered to let me use the screenshots as proof against Aunt Karen's complaints. In return, since she knew about the footage of Aunt Karen trying to kiss Mike after I told her about it, she asked me to convince Mike to file his own complaint, this time for sexual harassment. And more, if you can, against her, and since she spread lies and rumors about us for defamation, if possible. Well, at this point, I was absolutely speechless. She really wanted Aunt Karen to go down as possible. It was fair, but I asked her what she was going to do about it if her husband, since he cheated too. I know. None of my business, I know, but my mouth beat my brain to it. She said she was planning to bleed him dry in alimony, and maybe more if she could find other ways to get revenge. Moral of the story. Don't mess with wives like Sally, or any wives for that matter. So I'm now sitting in my living room, looking at the copies of the screenshots that Sally gave me and the complaint. I'm waiting for Mike to come back home to explain everything to him. I'm unsure whether any of this will even work. If it does, I'm also worried about Aunt Karen's potential revenge. She hasn't been the best sport so far. Update number 4. I'm back. All I have to do is say, buckle up everyone, this is going to be a wild update. As you know, I waited for Mike to come back home, so I could tell him about my meeting with Sally. I told him everything, even showed him the screenshots that she gave me. We really hoped that the screenshots and some potential lawsuits would get Aunt Karen off our backs this time for good. But he also shared my worries about them doing the exact opposite and just adding fuel to the fire. There was also the possibility that the screenshots were fake, that Sally had, and was collaborating with Aunt Karen just to simply trap us. Yeah, we know it's far-fetched, but on brand for Aunt Karen's name. We agreed to discuss it with more clear heads in the morning that was coming up next. So the next morning arrives, and we talked about the whole mess in a situation again. Our heads weren't any clearer because that was too much stress for one night to ease. But we agreed that we were already neck deep in problems because of Aunt Karen. So we might as well go all out too and take our only chance available. We replied to the complaint and denied the accusations. Next was the discovery phase. See, we shared the screenshots we got from Sally. It seemed to be enough to make Aunt Karen reconsider her decision. She soon dropped the entire lawsuit altogether. Well, I thought she would decide to lay low after that, but she asked me to meet up with her. I was really tired of all her craziness and just simply tried to refuse. But she kept begging and telling me it's so important. I end up accepting on the condition that we would meet in a public space. It has to be hard to convince her, but she finally agreed. We met up at another cafe. She came dressed like she was trying to hide from somebody. I'm talking trench coat, sunglasses, and most of her hair hidden under a black scarf. I'm guessing she was just trying to preserve her pride in case someone she knew overheard our conversation. So, she acted nice, offered to pay for my coffee and even for some cake as well. They have the best cake. I refused and paid for my own cup of coffee. I didn't have the appetite for more. She tried to talk about random stuff, obviously doing her best to dodge the inevitable conversation about the screenshots. I was the one who cut straight to the chase. I asked her if she was bothered that I had a copy of them. She looked taken aback and took a moment to reply before she looked away and just said, "Yes." Oh, the feeling of triumph I had at that moment. It was amazing, much better than a runner's high. That was the only answer I needed, so I just sipped on my coffee without even saying anything else. Aunt Karen nervously tapped her foot before she finally asked me, "Who gave them to you?" I told her that it's simply none of her business. She spat back that it was mostly her business because she was a part of the conversation. "Oh, so you finally admit you helped a married father cheat on his wife." She went livid. She probably did not expect me to know that much. Again, the feeling of triumph was amazing. Hadn't felt that way in ages thanks to Aunt Karen's craziness that I had to deal with. Well, when she finally understood that I had the upper hand this time, she starts begging me not to tell anyone. She babbled on about how it would ruin her life and how she would not be able to do anything. And she would do anything I wanted as long as I kept her little secret, and I quote, "I'll do anything, absolutely anything you want, and until I die, if you want. Just please don't tell anybody what you know. Please destroy those pictures and the footage you recorded the other day. You know which one, please. I can't afford to have my life ruined." At this moment, she sounded very distressed, and I really felt bad enough to consider dropping my plans and simply asking her to get out of my life completely. Then, I remembered that she never cared about ruining my life, Mike's and Sally's, as well as Sally's daughter, whom I didn't know about but must have been just as heartbroken as her mother. I owed justice to all of us, and now that we could finally get what we wanted. So, I finished my coffee without answering her, then simply walked out of the shop. It took a short moment for her to realize that I had not agreed to what she had said yet, so she followed me and caught my hand. I could see the distress on her face again, but I reminded myself on how she never cared about the distress she caused others. She was every bit the selfish narcissist usually portrayed in books and TV shows. I knew that she didn't feel sorry, she only felt scared for herself. I pulled my hand back and told her, "See you in court," before walking away. She didn't follow me or make a scene. Aunt Karen valued her pride and image way too much to look like a madwoman on the streets. I got home and I swear I felt euphoric. I know I shouldn't feel happy about other people's misery, but that woman might be the only exception I'll make to that rule. I was finally about to get some peace and quiet in my life again. I even did a little victory dance. Mike asked me what made me so happy, and I told him about my meetings with Aunt Karen. He also felt a little bad when I told him about her begging and distressed face. But he ended up agreeing to move forward with our plan. Even if we tried to forgive Aunt Karen, which was nearly impossible for us at that point, I still had an agreement with Sally. Revenge might not always restore peace, but in this case, it'll at least prevent shattering that peace even further. For now, it'll have to be enough. I told myself. We discussed our course of action, and we agreed to file a complaint against Aunt Karen for sexual harassment, based on the footage we have of her trying to forcibly kiss Mike. There was also the issue of defamation based on the rumor she spread, and the social media posted screenshots sent to me by my best friend. But the one that was definitely uncertain route to follow, the social media post and the account that posted them were already deleted, and I wasn't sure how many witnesses of her lies we, could get on our side. As I said, not everybody was brave enough to stand up to Aunt Karen, especially after she tried to turn me into an example of what happens when someone tries to do just that. We ended up only filing for sexual harassment. She tried denying charges even though she knew that we had proof. When that didn't work, she begged us again just to settle things amicably. Well, that also didn't work. We were determined to get justice, so the case went to trial. It was a tiring process, but naturally, in the end, yes, we won. Aunt Karen fought us tooth and nail just to deny the charges, but seeing that there was solid video evidence, ultimately pronounced guilty and sentenced to some community service and a big fine to have to pay. I mean, in the long run, it wasn't much, but I was hoping that it would humble her just enough. Sally asked me to meet up again a few days after the verdict. I was wondering why she would want to see me again. Turns out she had heard about the case and wanted to thank me. She was in the middle of divorcing her cheating husband and had gotten some hope from our case against Aunt Karen. I was glad to know she was going strong and doing well. As for me and Mike, we moved to England. Yeah, found ourselves a nice little spot in the countryside so we could finally enjoy our life. Far, far away from the unnecessary family dramas. The move wasn't easy, especially with our jobs and saying goodbye to everything we cherished back home, but I think it was worth it. I don't want to live anywhere Aunt Karen can get to, even if I have to go to Mars just to get away from her. Put me on the flight. I have no guarantee that her sentence will calm her down at all, and I don't want to stay there to find out when she gets freed. I also unapologetically cut ties with her and everyone who had taken her side. I don't have time for fake family. Speaking of family, and because good things come in pairs, I have more to announce to everybody. I'm pregnant. Mike and I were ecstatic when we found out, and I think it's strengthening our bond, especially after everything that we've gone through recently. I really hope we'll be good parents and that our birth child or children will never have to go through the stress that we recently went through ever. This is hopefully where my story ends. Everyone, moral of the story that I'm trying to go ahead and display is this. Cheaters never win, and what goes around comes around. Have a great day and great lives, and let others live their own life peacefully if you don't want to end up like Aunt Karen did. That will be all. See you guys. Well, to me, it just seemed like it did not matter what OP tried to do. The aunt just came coming back, fighting for more and more. This Aunt Karen was so relentless. I mean, they had mounting evidence against her, and she still didn't care. She came up with lie after lie, trying to make it look like it was actually OP's husband who was in the wrong. And the crazy thing about all of it is, some of the family actually believed her. If it wasn't for the hardcore video evidence that they eventually did have of, well, basically sexual abusing her husband, then I don't think this Aunt Karen would have really been caught. What do you guys think about this story? Drop your opinions down below. Let's talk about it because, well, we've seen some crazy aunt stories in this channel, but this one was specifically very crazy and toxic. I don't know how I would handle this situation. Let me know how you would handle it. Guys, if you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I post every single day. Stories I try to find with complete updates so you're never missing out on anything. So go ahead and subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.